Tea is always good. Okay, I think I'm just going to do this. Is there a full word here? Like drone full? I only see fleuron. Fleuron. Yeah, my rating sucks. Enough is probably better than the bingo here, because I'm down by too much. Okay, things are getting a bit interesting unless he plays equal or bingos. Those two things are actually pretty likely. I'm hoping he has the Q and something unwieldy at this venture. Yeah, now I basically have to hope that he has the Q. Wish I could play this or this. So I don't think I should bingo here once again. I think I need to do something else. Oh, there's a cool spot for an I here. But yeah, he's very likely to have a huge play next turn. Whoops. Yeah, I don't have anything that scores. It seems to score enough. Maybe he'll make a mistake. Whoa. Whoa. I mean, that's bad. It means he's probably going to bingo. But that was an unexpected draw of QU. But if he doesn't bingo, I have requital and I have racket. We'll see what happens. What is that lyrics from One Wonderful Fish? Those seem like lyrics. Okay, he hasn't done anything yet. I mean, what could he have? It has to start with an R, so you could have something geraniol. If the N's in the bag, he definitely has bingos. If the N isn't in the bag, and if the A is in the bag, he has bingos. What if the blank's in the bag? What if QU blank was in the bag? That would be quite ridiculous. I'm surprised. I mean, if he has a bingo, I'm surprised why that he hasn't played it yet. So I might actually. But yeah, if the R is in the bag and Hinga, not much. In Iguanan isn't good. Iguanian is good. I don't see something he would have if the R is in the bag. I don't immediately see something he would have if the I is in the bag. Or if the G is in the bag. So it is possible that 4 out of 8 times I'm winning this game. Although he could still just outscore me. Like, for example, if you just plays here, yeah, I think that might do it. Oh no, I win by 1. I win by 1? That's ridiculous. That's absurd. Well, we did it. Jesus. Oh, it's not requital. Yeah, it isn't requital, is it? Okay, it's both of them. Wow. Let's see what he could have done that might have scored more than granola, though. Because, yeah, basically he has to... Well, yeah, but, yeah, okay. So granola was total of 6. Granola was a total of 6 points, which doesn't appear to be a lot. If he had something that banked more than 6 total points, which is 8 minus the n. Equator, yeah, I mean equator works too. But yeah, that was crazy. I just want to see. I'll decline this. What about this? This looks like it just wins, right? So if he just plays this instead, he'll win the game. But yeah, this is a classic thing. Like, obviously that was a really bad beat. From his perspective, yeah, requital is just always there. So it's good of him to try to block the spot. But it's very... These two comments here, the only way I lose if you put the Q on the double word, he meant double letter. He said double word. Which you did. Just indicates to me, like, the feeling of, like, hopelessness or helplessness that he was experiencing in the position after looking at his play and calculating. But if instead of that he was looking for a bit longer, instead of feeling like, oh my god, this is so ridiculous that this is what's in the bag, if he had looked harder for a play that scored more points. And this, I don't know, this very well might be the only winning play. It would have been better for it, but I think people get caught up in the idea of discussing how unlucky something is, which, hey, if you think that this is very unlucky, I would agree with you. It's like if you're staring at that and you're in the middle of a game. Lady Breezy Bree, thanks for the follow. But yeah, if you're in this like tense game and you're up like a certain amount, but you don't feel like you're safe, it's very easy to be like really worried that you're gonna lose, and seeing something like this is like, wow, this is absurd. I can't believe requital is always in the bag, no matter what 7 tiles he has, which is really cool. Like, if If you take the blank away, requital's in the bag. If you take any other letter away, requital's in the bag. So these situations happen, and you have to really just like be chill about it and be like, okay, this is a threat to my winning the game, but how do I deal with this threat? Is there a way? And he went pretty far. He found granola. He's like, okay, the only way I can lose after granola is if he has a play that doubles the queue. Not only doubles the queue, but also puts a letter that isn't the blank on the other double letter score. Because, for example, if in racket that A was the blank, it would have been a tie game. It would have scored, I can't even do this. It would have scored 77, would have tied the game. So not only did I have to double the queue, I also had to double a real letter on my rack. So yeah, it's a good tip, because I know that there are players that are very weathered players, such as Frank. He's been playing forever, but I still notice these slight helplessness, these feelings of helplessness, or like always relying on the luck factor and just saying, oh, you were just unlucky, or I was just unlucky, and that's why the game was lost. But in this specific situation, you have the ability to calculate how you lose this game. And he had 10 minutes and he didn't find the winning play. And I feel like that happens sometimes as a result of this feeling of like, wow, I can't believe it's dawning on me that like this guy has requital every time and I need to block requital and hope he doesn't score enough. Anyways, that's my sort of psychological analysis of what happened there. And yeah, I do think that if more people were a lot less reliant on judging a game by who got which tile or whatever and who got which lucky break, I think it would take the game even further than it is right now. There's so much to learn in Scrabble, so much to do, so many things you can do to win, and until you've exhausted all of those things, it's very silly, I think, to use the variance factor or the luck factor to determine how you think about the game. Hope springs eternal. Yeah, that's a great ideology. I also I take it a bit too far, I think. For example, I was talking about Nigel Richards earlier. I had the opportunity to get to know Nigel pretty well in Buffalo Nationals tournament in 2014. We would have lunch together from time to time. We would talk about a bunch of stuff. And at some point I talked to him about Scrabble, and I was like, I feel like every game is winnable. And he was like, what do you mean you feel like every game is winnable? What if your opponent starts the game with 4 bingos in a row? How are you supposed to win those games? And I'm thinking about it. I'm like, what to say here? I was like, well, guess you should have shaken the bag differently then. And that was my response, because of course, like, if your opponent just bingos every turn, regardless of what you do, if you're playing like all the best moves that are like obviously best moves, and your opponent's still trampling you every turn, like, yeah, you probably couldn't win that game. It's probably like 1 in 100 games or something. You're playing at a top level that you can't win. And I know you're floating that number out there, 25% unwinnable. I really think it's 1% or less. Until you have people that are good enough to play optimally at the top level, I think those figures are kind of absurd, to be honest. But yeah, I take it a bit too far, and I believe in like the butterfly effect. It's like, well, this one decision that I made to only shake the bag for 4 seconds caused me to lose this game. If that's what it comes to, and it doesn't come to that usually, you can always point to like a mistake you made in the game, be like, well, that could have been pivotal. So yeah, until you're playing perfectly or optimally, because it's impossible to play perfectly unless you're like cheating, and you know your opponent's rack and you know all the possible moves. But until you're playing optimally and you're not making any clear mistakes, I think you really shouldn't think about the game of Scrabble about like in that way. Like, oh, 25% of the time I'll just win. 25% of the time my opponent will just win, and 50% of the time that's the games I have to care about. I mean, if that's all you can muster, if that's all you can handle, I guess you do you. But I think that seeing the game in a different way, in a different light, until we get to the point where there are enough people playing, which I hope will be soon, where the strategy is taken to the highest levels, and where there's just people competing everywhere for larger sums of money and motivating themselves to really get as good as possible at the game. Until that really happens, and it's starting to happen in places like Pakistan and Nigeria. They've got amazing teams there, amazing coaches. But until that happens, I really think it's really fruitless to think of Scrabble in that way. You won your first real tournament last year, Daj. It really feels good to win a tournament. And until you're like Nigel and you're just like winning most tournaments you attend, basically, you should keep your thoughts about variance to yourself. That's my opinion. Because honestly, the other aspect of it is when you're playing someone and they're just like, oh, I had such terrible tiles, or oh, you had such great tiles, or you had the S in that pivotal position. Like all those things, it's just like, it kind of takes away from strategic discussion about like what went on in the game. And it ends up being like a sort of passive aggressive exchange of words of like, oh, well, you had that tile, oh, but you had that tile, oh, but you had that tile, oh, you had that word at that time, and it just goes on. And that's one of my pet peeves. I try to avoid that as much as possible. I know there are lots of times where I'm like, oh, I have a horrible rack. I mean, yeah, you might have a horrible rack. That's fine. Just find the best play. Yeah, this won't do it. This won't do it. I can export the GCG. I actually just want to see if there's any other winning play other than ANNAL. Because this is pretty, honestly, it's like you don't really get positions in Scrabble very often where you can be absolutely sure of the math. There's only 2 spots to bingo. Here, you see requital is there. And here, you see the maximum of points that can be scored with the letters. So you can calculate, even though there's 1 tile in the bag, you can calculate precisely what might happen, even without seeing all the options. You have to see requital and be like, oh shit, I gotta block that. And then you can be like, okay, there are certainly options here that will score, what was it, 78 points. So you calculate it and you see that your play of granola is going to lose if your opponent gets a play here. And you're able to precisely figure out how to win the game. Alright, so I have the Quackle screen here. I want to see if I can just capture it here. Hold on a sec. Let's just do this. So as you can see, only winning play. Actually, not even fully winning, apparently, which doesn't make sense to me. What possible other way to lose is there? I think Quackle's just... Oh, I see. Okay, I was wrong in my analysis. Does anybody see why this loses sometimes? There's an available bingo in the unseen letters that plays somewhere on this board after this that will score enough points to win. It's a cool little quiz. It's a cool little quiz. I'll give people some time. This is stupid. Granola's a better play than this. Crackle just doesn't find Granola. But yeah, there's one bingo. And I'm sure someone spotted it by now. It's Quakier. So he plays this, and this is my rack. Quakier for 94 wins. So yeah, there's nothing you can do about this specific instance. But I don't know why it's at 75%. So I'm gonna look at other options. Okay, if this happens, then you just lose. Wait. Muriate doesn't win. 64. Okay. So you lose by 3 after Muriate. Or by 5, whoops. What about this? Oh yeah, of course. Fair enough. Okay, so that's... I was trying to explain that this is this is possible to solve. This position is solvable. But I obviously failed to solve it. So yeah, in 2 instances, this doesn't win. But it's the best play. Okay.